First person signed up is Walter Malillo.
Good afternoon, board members, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I'm Walter Malillo, President of the City of Local 618, represent all the hard men and women who work here at RIPTA. I speak to you today, as always, not in support of any reductions to public transit or service cuts. While we appreciate there have been no layoffs, any decrease in service will significantly impact our members and human resources. As you know already, our operators experience limited recovery time. Further cuts, this will all reduce this recovery time even more, resulting in both physical and mental fatigue, and the ability to perform at the highest level, as well as insufficient restroom access throughout the day. This, we all know, will affect the riders due to possibly overcrowded buses, late trips due to the reduction in the frequency of routes. It is our hope, and just let me state that I understand that every board member here knows how important public transit is to the state of Rhode Island. But it is our hope that the state leaders recognize this essential role public transit plays in supporting our community, economy, and state growth. Continued investment in transit is necessary. Without it, a sustainable funding source, this ongoing crisis will persist, and we will be back here in the later future. So I ask everybody here to advocate and support public transit, because we can't let public transit die in the city. It's crucial for citizens, it's crucial for the economy.
Thank you. Could we please make it out that Bernard has joined us and Mark King, President of the Corporation?
So noted.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Representative Teresa Tanzi.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Tanzi, and I'm a member of the House of Representatives representing Narragansett, South Kingstown. I've been in office for 15 years, and one thing that I've heard consistently over and over again is businesses want predictability. And businesses aren't the only ones that expect that certainty. Our riders, the business community that transit serves, and all people in Rhode Island deserve some sense of certainty. I've been through many years of these proposed service cuts and changes and experienced firsthand the roller coaster that this puts our residents, our constituents, and riders and businesses through. We now have the efficiency report. We know definitively that it's not RIPTA that is the problem. The board has some significant decisions to make, unfortunate decisions, but it's time that we as a state make the determination as to whether or not we're going to be a provider of predictable public transportation, plain and simple. Are we going to invest in a system that works, or are we going to stand by and watch as it slowly deteriorates, strangles our economic progress, destroys opportunities for individuals who rely on the transit system to get to school, to work, while it deprives others of the opportunity to have a full and rich social life, which is just as important for individuals as getting to their medical doctor's appointments. The decision today lies with you, the board. But in the future, will you advocate for a stronger transit system? Will you be in attendance at the next General Assembly hearings when we discuss investments in RIPTA and funding the Transit Master Plan, which was the one conclusion that this efficiency report said should be a top priority? Are you ready to stand up for RIPTA and make it into the transit system you all know we desperately need in the state? Are we going to just sit back and watch year after year as the devastating cuts, while watching the heart-wrenching testimony about how deeply these cuts will impact people who live in our state? This is up to you right now, the board. You're the driver, for the next decade of our transit system. The decisions you make this year will determine whether we're on this perennial roller coaster or we transition to a reliable, predictable, dependable transit system that serves all Rhode Islanders. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the members have any questions? Thank you.
I apologize, the next speaker, the last name is Vargas, I can't read the first name. Last name is
Vargas.
Vargas?
Councilwoman, or Senator Vargas, rather?
She's running with the lead. She's signed up. Okay. Well, Mr. John Flaherty.
Good afternoon. My name is John Flaherty. I'm here today on behalf of Grow Smart Rhode Island. We want to once again thank you for your volunteer service to RIPTA. We know it's not easy. This is one of those agonizing moments when you have to reconcile the resources that have been allocated with the devastating consequences of the service cuts that are currently on the table. But make no mistake, the proposed cuts before you right now remain among the largest in RIPTA's 59-year history. They will inflict severe hardship on many people, businesses, and institutions, while undermining the value of public transit. And cutting service will further reduce ridership, fare box revenue, with strong potential to trigger a full-blown transit death spiral. And if you haven't heard about the transit death spiral, look it up, it's very real. You don't have to take my word for it, but consider RIPTA's own annual audit numbers from the period following the last large-scale service cut that occurred 17 years ago in 2008. In that year, ridership was more than 21 million. Today it's about 12. But along with those service cuts, there were also two fare increases, one in 2009 and one in 2011. And that's when the decline in ridership and fare revenue began, and it's one that we have never recovered from. Today there are 9 million fewer passenger trips annually, and annual fare revenue has dropped to nearly $7 million annually. It has dropped $7 million annually. And some will ask, why has ridership declined? We hear that question often. So when we read the letter and the press release from the governor presenting a budget framework that secures RIPTA's immediate future while positioning us to build the kind of transit system that Rhode Island deserves, you'll forgive us for not seeing it as anything more than cheap lipstick on a pig. We do appreciate the hopeful words of Speaker Shekarchi in responding to this revised proposal, saying, quote, "As the House scrutinizes this latest announcement, we will continue to work with advocates and hold the administration and the RIPTA board accountable to develop a comprehensive plan that will create a better transit model for Rhode Island." The business community has spoken up and loudly. Letters from the Rhode Island Manufacturers Association, the Rhode Island Hospitality Association, the Providence Foundation, the South Kingstown Economic Development Committee, among others, asking to resolve the budget issue.
Mr. Flaherty, that's 3 minutes, please finish up.
Okay, thank you. So I will end with a request. And that is that we ask you to please not be instruments of dismantling what is proven to be a well-run agency. Among the best in the nation, in fact. It's something we should be proud of and support and nurture. If the cuts are enacted, there's sure to be much finger pointing in the months ahead. This is a chance to be on the right side of history by rejecting the cuts. The funds are there. The governor made a proposal on June 26th to transfer $15 million in surplus funds. And so they are there. And please insist that that happens, because a well-run transit system is a terrible thing to waste. Thank you.
Thank you. Do the board members have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Representative David Morales.
Chairman, members of the board, I stand here today as a legislator that represents thousands of working people, seniors, and students across the state of Providence, many of whom would be directly impacted by the decision to move forward with any service reductions or cuts. And this is taking the form, as we have heard throughout the RIPTA public hearings, of having students that are now going to be in a situation where there's less stability as relates to getting from their homes over to getting to school on time, which is in direct contrast to the governor's initiative around attendance mattering. It's the difference of whether or not a working person is able to reliably depend on public transportation as their means of being able to get to their job and contribute to the economy. And while it is true that RIPTA has been dealt with a hard hand of being underfunded within this last state budget, I want us to recognize that there are still other opportunities that exist to ensure that we prevent any service cuts. Because today I'm calling on the board to delay any vote related to service cuts for RIPTA, and instead to pass a resolution calling on the General Assembly to reconvene for a short special session for the purposes of being able to pass a supplemental budget that would allocate the necessary resources to plug the $10 million deficit that exists for RIPTA. And I want to assure the board that this in of itself would be a popular decision based on feedback from the public, considering the fact that many cities and towns have passed resolutions urging for solutions to be found. The business community has spoken, but most importantly, the bus riders, the users of public transportation have spoken. And our job as elected officials is to be responsive to them. So if we are being told by the board of our public transit agency, we need y'all in the legislature to come back and develop a solution based on reallocating funding, which I recognize you cannot do as a body, but we in the legislature can. I will tell you right now, there are dozens of legislators who have been receiving calls and want to act. We have been receiving calls from our constituents, and we would welcome an opportunity to be able to act by passing a supplemental budget that would plug the deficit hole. But it's not enough for us just as legislators to be able to directly connect with House and Senate leadership to communicate this need. There's a lot of value when the leadership from the RIPTA board is calling on the legislature to do so. So again, I call on the board to delay a vote around any service cuts and to instead pursue a resolution calling on the General Assembly to reconvene and pass a supplemental budget so RIPTA does not have to face the decision around any service cuts. Thank you.
Do the board members have any questions? Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Liza Burke.
Good afternoon. So this plan may be less bad than the one we were faced with on August 7th, but make no mistake, there is nothing good here to be celebrated. Instead of murdering RIPTA, Governor McKee is merely putting out life support. Yet when I listen to the positive narrative that's being spun in the media by RIPTA, by the governor, and by the board chair, it feels like I'm listening to some alternative reality that completely ignores the damage this is going to have on RIPTA and its riders. This is not a right sizing of RIPTA. These cuts will cripple the agency, turning the hope of growing ridership into a fantasy. There's nothing about shrinking RIPTA that makes it stronger. Riders are going to be further burdened with lower frequencies, canceled weekend service, scaled back hours. That is not a stronger and more modern agency. With regard to fare increases, your own efficiency studies paints a grim picture when it comes to the consequences of increasing fares, while at the same time pointing out that RIPTA is in line or more expensive than its peer agencies. Quote, fare increases will discourage some riders from continuing to use transit such that it diminishes the total revenue increase that would have occurred if all riders continued using transit. There is an abundance of evidence that raising fares will lead to lower ridership, further damaging any hope of growing this agency. So much emphasis was placed on this efficiency study by this body, by the legislature, and now you're throwing cold water on it just because you don't like what it says. Continuing to suggest that burdening riders with this agency's financial stability is a good idea shows that you have given up on finding real solutions. We are at a time where we cannot afford to be shrinking our public transit system for all the reasons that we've been talking about for years. Climate change, rising housing costs, and basic economic competitiveness with other states. So we are here a final time begging you not to move forward with these cuts. You as the board have the voice today to vote no. Reject the governor's plan, tell him to go back and try again. Thank you.
Any questions from the board members? Thank you.
Next speaker is Janelle Wheeler. Janelle Wheeler? Oh, sorry.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to us. While I appreciate that the plan that is proposed, this version of the governor's new deal, is slightly better, it is still destructive. It is still cruel. As a daily rider of RIPTA myself and a Providence resident without a car, I rely on over 20 RIPTA routes every month to get around. And we cannot reduce the frequency of weekend service for 45 of RIPTA's routes. We cannot make this system less reliable for riders like me. Reducing the frequency, for example, of the 4 means I might not be able to get to work on time. It's the difference of me being still able to teach and then get to my next part of the day. Eliminating the segment of the 14 that goes to Narragansett means I wouldn't have access to attend meetings at the local organization I'm involved with. And on my way back from Narragansett a few weeks ago on the 14, I ran into someone I knew on the bus, telling him about the potential cuts, and he was stunned. How will I get where I need to be? This is what my friends are saying. This is what the community is saying. And this new proposal is not a victory, because drivers will still lose their jobs and there is no sustainable solution. And this system being crippled in the name of building a strong transit system is a joke. Raising bus fares also will not fix the problem. They won't come close to fixing the budget gap. So because they're a fraction of the revenue, they'll decrease ridership and will be impractical for riders who pay in cash. If the cost of RIPTA rises and service is cut, ridership will decrease. Wounding RIPTA wounds all of Rhode Island, our citizens, our economy, and our future. I, along with so many others who spoke at RIPTA's public hearings, the piles of stories about each unique way that these cuts would devastate our lives were heartfelt. Were those hearings truly heard? It was an outpouring of outrage, a demonstration of desperation, and a holding of hope for all RIPTA riders. So to you here, the RIPTA board, I really believe you have a heart. I believe that you want, that you do want RIPTA to run. And if you say that you care for the people of Rhode Island, that you care for RIPTA, that you care for riders, then our voice has been overwhelmingly clear. That you need to fully fund RIPTA. You need to reject this new proposal. You need to not alter segments of our maps. That's unacceptable. We need to be expanding our mobility and investing even more in public transit as a public service and an investment in the well-being of both our city and our planet. There is still time. You can still say no, listen to our voices, and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members? Thank you.
Next speaker is Nicholas Rudder.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to note, previously testifying at the Providence hearings is just another benefit of a public transit system that can engage directly with the people who use it. And public transit is a system that doesn't threaten the environment, housing, or safety of the citizens it serves, but rather complements it. We're here because of a decision by the governor to hold back necessary funding to keep RIPTA running at its current state in this proposed budget. The state legislature, to their credit, made huge, unprecedented strides in trying to minimize this gap by increasing the amount of permanent funding RIPTA receives, reducing the deficit to where we are today, $10 million, almost closing entirely with the motion by State Senator Zurier to move funds from RIDOT to keep RIPTA solvent. RIPTA did not put itself in this situation. It was forced into it by perpetual underfunding. RIPTA, its advocates, and users have once again been forced to acquiesce to the ritual of begging for money while under vacant and acting administrative positions in RIPTA and being subject to a MOVE efficiency study. No other state agency is privy to this amount of needs testing, much less other state agencies tasked with transporting our residents. Despite these constraints, RIPTA successfully completed the study, navigated a leadership crisis, addressed the driver shortage, and by transit property the service gaps, all while expanding service to Quonset, Amazon, and the soccer stadium, as well as expansion of the RIPTA Wave to Work program, all while maintaining the crucial existing statewide connections to work, study, family, food, and leisure for Rhode Islanders of all incomes and abilities. I will conclude with a warning reiterated by an earlier speaker today that no cuts are truly temporary because RIPTA is still recovering from those cuts in 2008. And these are the reasons why we are often wrestling declining ridership numbers. As admittedly, ridership is still struggling to reach that 21 million ridership peak pre-cuts. But again, these are policy decisions by our leaders. These reasons why the RIPTA ridership numbers are not meeting their potential, and they're in danger of creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. So to reiterate, RIPTA has closed service gaps, raised driver pay, expanded service while maintaining peak efficiency under a capable CEO. In the contrast, the automobile and rideshare prices remain exorbitant, with declining quality of product, experience, and infrastructure. Rhode Island leadership is choosing to turn its back on this tremendous opportunity to allow RIPTA to thrive, and instead are repeating the same short-sighted missteps in the name of an item line. The increased car usage and subsequent liabilities of death, injury, property and road damage, congestion, drain on law enforcement resources, as well as loss of jobs and access to education. All this will greatly eclipse whatever pennies have been successfully pinched by reducing RIPTA service rather than expanding it. I call upon the board to reject these cuts and the state of Rhode Island to do what is avoided for decades and fully fund and expand RIPTA for the benefit of all Ocean State residents, workers, and tourists. Thank you.
The board members have any questions? Thank you.
The next speaker is Senator Lamas Vargas.
Good evening, board members. My name is Lamas Vargas. I'm the state senator representing the District of 28, which encompasses a portion of the city of Providence and also encompasses a portion of the city of Cranston. I'll start off by saying, since being elected as senator this past year, I pushed hard for full sustainability funding of RIPTA, including sponsoring a bill to place a $100 million bond referendum for public transit on next year's election ballot. He also voted in favor of Senator Sam Zurier's floor amendment to redirect the $10 million in gas tax and highway funding towards RIPTA. This budget amendment was obviously an attempt to provide more stable funding for the transit authority, and unfortunately that amendment did fail. While I am encouraged by the recent developments to sidewalk what could be described as devastating cuts, there is still much work to, clearly, as we all know, to be done on this issue. And I do remain close in contact with advocates from the Save RIPTA Coalition, and I do pledge to continue fighting for full and sustainable funding in public transportation in our state. Now, I do not believe increasing public transportation fare is the right path towards addressing operational funding needs. Happy, however, to discuss and hear everyone out, as my mind may obviously change depending on what I'm obviously here, and I'd like to address the issues first. Fare hikes place the greatest burden on the very riders who depend on most of these services. And so here this afternoon, not only to just speak, but also to listen, and reaffirm my commitment to work in partnership with all of you as board members, the RIPTA leadership, union members, and clearly my colleagues in government to ensure that we move RIPTA in the right direction. Based on what I'm hearing, raising fares will not, I don't think, resolve our challenges. Instead, it risks the consequences as damaging the service cuts. A fare increase creates a ripple effect, limiting access to healthcare, jobs and education for folks that are trying to get to those locations. I don't represent the URI campus, but I do represent many students who do live in my district that attend URI, who are living off campus, nearby campus, I should say, and whose routes will be affected even by reducing the time, even if the routes don't necessarily get eliminated, but the time on that end. And again, it's just my responsibility to amplify their voices. And at a time when the cost of living continues to rise, increasing fares will only drag down ridership and deepen the burden on those that are already struggling.
Senator, if I may, you've reached the 3-minute.
Oh, I apologize.
I
Oh,
just
I'm
wanna-
sorry, I didn't want to
if you
use
could,
3 minutes.
finish up.
I will, I apologize. I'll turn it up and just say, I don't, it's not a luxury, public transportation. My mother takes the bus, relies heavily on the bus as well, and so does many others. And it's also a choice for residents to stay committed to protecting our environment, reducing greenhouse gas emission, confronting the urgent reality of climate change. So public buses are more than a means of getting from one place to another. They are a lifeline for our communities, an engine of economic opportunity, and a cornerstone of our state's climate equity goals. And so I want to thank you for your time, and I am more than welcome to continue to roll my sleeve and work with you as your state senator, as a constituent, as a member of the state of Rhode Island. And I'm sure you're all what I call pickle, right? Trying to figure out what's best for everyone, and it's certainly tough. And I'm there, and I'm sitting down in the different committees that I serve, and I understand that. And I hope that everybody clearly has a well-intended vision for RIPTA, but also for the riders who are here today and are watching. And so thank you for your time.
Board members have any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director.
Next speaker is Sumner Stoner. Stone, I'm sorry. Got it? Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am what you might call a regular rider. I was loading up the buses that I have used in the last year, almost all of them regular, with some to a great deal of regularity. That's 18. Talked a lot with drivers, and I talked a lot with passengers. And I'm not here to say that RIPTA does not need money and there are things that need to be done. It can be done. But this proposal is not the way to go. I stand with anyone here who has asked you to either to agree to this proposal now, or if you do, to postpone implementation until this is reconsidered. Because what you have before you is ill-considered and will not do the job and will cause tremendous hardship, not only to the ridership, but also to the state. The reason it will do that is because this proposal ends up cutting weekend and holiday service to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different places, different lines, at least some of which, including my line, the 16, presents or offers a sole way of getting up and down Route 2 for people in East Greenwich, North Kingstown, etc. And they will not be able to shop. They will not be able to visit families. And on a even though it may say on the weekend and holiday, you're talking about maybe 3 different days for many of these routes where people will not be able to visit families on state holidays. They won't be able to go to church, okay? They will not be able to go shopping. And if they don't go shopping, what happens? The state loses revenue, localities lose revenue, and it will be a disaster. Without, again, rethinking this. Now, I understand, and I've been asked by a number of drivers and other observers to talk about the fact that there do not appear to be anyone in upper management who has any real transportation management experience. I am not able to vouch for that, but I do know this, because I have a certain amount from many years ago. There are things that can be done and should be done. I have a couple of proposals, which actually I proposed in the first 2 August meetings, that don't involve raising the fares. But for example, people use Wave, and they put it on their, most of them put it on their phone.
Excuse me, Mr. Stone, you're at the 3-minute limit. If you could
In
wrap it
any
up, we'd
event,
appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't see why we can't, RIPTA can't charge $10 every 6 months to people who use Wave, put it on their phone. That will bring in some income. Even people who are, like me, who have reduced fares, fare cards for disability age, I'm 79, etc., certainly would be able to pay $10 a year rather than every 2 years, or even, again, $10. This will bring in some revenue, but more importantly is that people's families, their lives, their finances will be disrupted by some of these proposals. And rather than going into them at this point, there has been no real opportunity for the public or any other interested parties to go over in detail each of the proposals. But there are too many cuts, and they're inefficient. And as I say, revenue needs to be raised, but if this proposal goes through, Governor McKee, whose office I have spoken to several times, and a lot of the people who are representatives and senators are going to have to face public backlash. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from board members? So thank you.
Next speaker is Barry Schiller.
Excuse me.
Grant.
Hi, board.
Grant.
Barry Schiller. I've been on this board and
That's all right.
long life of using transit and advocating for it. And I'm kind of angry that I have to be here to try to avoid the downward spiral that threatens RIPTA that John Flaherty referred to. That would be the end of RIPTA as a tool for improving our economy, environment, reducing accidents, and steering better land use. Don't want that to happen, so I have several points about that. One is, I understand that you have to, being on the board before, you have to have a balanced budget. So if you're going to vote for the service cuts, and even that is not clear that it's a balanced budget, there's some iffy things. You got to take steps to try to minimize the damage. 2 suggestions since you're rescheduling everything. One is customer friendly to do clock face scheduling as much as possible. My 57 line used to leave Kennedy Plaza on the hour, half hour. Now it's every 35, 37 minutes. I have no idea when it leaves. It's very unfriendly for users. Secondly, see what you could do to run more through lines that make sense. The 57 Smith Street goes by the State House, the train station, the Providence Place Mall, and then becomes a 55 that repeats that, goes right back through those things. That doesn't make any marketing sense. If you could match 57 and 55 with South Side lines, one of the earlier iterations of the service cuts had the 57 match the 21 from the South Side, giving a 1-seat ride from the South Side to those destinations. See what you can do about that, just a suggestion. More importantly though, for the board members, if you care about the agency and you want to avoid the downward spiral, you've got to use your contacts with business, with labor unions, other labor organizations, and with the state government itself to promote transit. And for example, with the state government, implement the 2008 law that required steps to reduce state employee commute miles. Never been implemented. See what you can do. Also, because the governor appointed you to the board, I know you're not going to want to publicly criticize him. I don't blame you for that. But behind the scenes, you could call his office and say, you know what, you could avert these cuts if you want to. We know you can. He himself said in late June, as John Flaherty mentioned, that he had $15 million available for RIPTA. You know that when the Washington Bridge closed, they found money to redo the eastbound, and they even found money for a ferry. So there's always flexibility in transportation funding if the governor wanted to use it. And of course, there's the supplemental budget that he's proposed if he works out with the legislative leaders to avert the cuts. And even if you vote for the cuts today, you can still call the governor, and I liked Rep. Morales' suggestion, maybe the General Assembly leaders, to avert the cuts until they happen. It's not over, right?
Excuse me, Barry, you're at the 3 minute.
Yeah, and my wrap up is that I gave Roy Rivers, because fare increases are on the horizon, I gave him a study that we did for Rhode Island transit riders of 10 comparable systems, and we're already tied for the top fare among those 10 systems, which have other fares from $0 to $1.75. There's one other that's $2. So we're already high. Let's not go there. Raise revenue, it won't raise much. Okay, thank you for listening.
Grant.
Board members, have any questions?
Grant.
Thank you.
Grant. Next speaker will be Jason Victoria O'Connell. Did I say it right?
You sure did.
All right.
That's right.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Victoria O'Connell. I live in Providence. I spoke at the board meeting on August 7th, and I framed what I said as a sales pitch interspersed with appeals to empathy. Today, I would like to appeal to common sense. Associations, companies, experts, politicians, and everyday citizens from all over Rhode Island have said that RIPTA is necessary, an essential service. People depend on RIPTA to get their groceries, go to work and school, see loved ones, get to doctor appointments. Common sense dictates that we should not have to beg and plead for essential services. We should not have to pay more for essential services, especially when the rates are already higher than they are in other places. For example, in Connecticut, a 2-hour pass is $1.75 and a day pass is $3.50. I keep hearing the word deficit, and I know we live in late-stage capitalism, but RIPTA is not a for-profit organization. It's not there to generate revenue. It's a public service. That makes y'all, as members of the RIPTA board, public servants. So, using some common sense, you need to serve the public. You need to advocate for us. Demand full funding for RIPTA. Don't focus on closing a $10 million deficit when the police budget for Providence alone for fiscal year 2026 is $118.7 million, according to a quick Google search. It's not that the money isn't there, it's that the money is going to the wrong places, and I urge you to bring this to the attention of Governor McKee. And FYI, he's a public servant too, and I think this board should remind him of that. Remind him that he is supposed to take care of the people. In Christopher Duran and Governor McKee's August 25th letter to the board, it calls for fewer, more targeted service reductions informed by demand data. The scaled back service reductions generally focus on the highest cost, lowest performing routes and frequencies. What that's really saying is these routes don't make a ton of money, so it's okay to screw over the people who depend on those buses. That's not okay. I want to reiterate 2 things I said at the August 7th meeting. 1, taxpayers put the bill for RIPTA and a majority of the bill for the police. As a taxpayer who uses RIPTA literally 1 day per calendar month, if that, I'm happy to have my tax dollars go to RIPTA, a service that helps my community, helps my fellow Rhode Islanders. rather than to overfunding the police. And two, when you make it too expensive for people to live, you condemn those people to death. My final thought for today is that the common sense reason I want RIPTA to not only not be reduced, but fully funded is this. I would like to have a society where we take care of each other, where we have community, and we actually give a damn about our neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Do board members have any questions?
Next speaker is Jane Arnold.
Good afternoon. My name is Jane Arnold, and I live in Pawtucket. And before I came here, there were three things I was wondering about. I was wondering how many of you got here on a bus today. And I was wondering how many of you take a bus to work regularly. And third, I was wondering if the answer is no, which my experience has been it probably is, why not? Now, you've heard a lot from people who don't have alternatives. They have to take the bus to get to work, to get to medical appointments, to get to school, to shop. Those of us who have alternatives would really like to have reliable, frequent buses so we can take them. I would love to have somebody else drive, so that I don't have to deal with people who think that a stop sign means yield if you happen to feel like it. If not, I'm gonna hit you. I would love to have somebody else drive down one of those narrow streets, which are two-way, and wide enough for two cars to pass each other if there weren't cars parked on both sides, and you have to go in and out and juggle yourself around. I love the fact that I could take a bus if it's snowing, and I don't have to take the car out, and I don't have to shovel the driveway. And I like riding the bus because I like looking at the people. I like looking at the drivers. I am not the only one. My neighbor just got a job at Brown. She would be ecstatic to be able to take the bus. 10-minute bus ride, 5-minute walk to the stop, 10-minute bus ride. She doesn't have to find parking. She's got to get to work on time. She doesn't have a choice, and the number one bus is unreliable, and I have learned I don't take it if I need to be somewhere, transfer a bus, or to meet somebody, because it might be early, and it might be late, and it only runs every 20 minutes, so if it comes 15 minutes early, as it did the last time I took it, I might be there for 45 minutes waiting for another bus. That's not okay for public transit, for anybody. Megan Coleman also, in one of her testimonies here, brought up the fact that the number one bus goes down Home Street. Lots of people work at Brown. It would be really great if they took that bus, and then more people would take the bus. But the more you cut, the less reliable it is, and the more people with alternatives are going to take those alternatives because they just don't have time or energy to deal with, is the bus going to come? Am I going to get there on time? The other really good reason to take the bus is it seems to me, and again, I have heard this, the people who are making the decisions about the lives of the citizens of the state don't take the buses. Well, why not? Because we do, and you should know who's on those buses. You should get out and talk and see those people. When I was trying to figure out where I wanted to live when I retired, and for the first time I could move somewhere, I wanted to move not where somebody got a job. I lived in 8 states, 14 different communities, many with public transit. I spent quite a lot of time in Providence, and I spent 3 months living just over the Cranston line on Broad Street, and I was under the delusion at that time that there were lots of buses.
Excuse me, Ms. Arnold, you're at every minute.
Okay, one story. So on one of those buses, went down Broad Street. I was on the bus going down Broad Street. The driver started to pull over to a stop where there was somebody sitting in a wheelchair, and a young man at the back of the bus got up and started arranging the seat so that the person in the wheelchair could sit there. And I thought, yeah, I think I want to live here. I like these people.
Do the board members have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Joan Rich.
Friend. This barcode doesn't work, Bill, just to let you know. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Joanne Rich. I live on the east side. I ride the bus, and I'm lucky that I can also afford a car that I'm able to drive myself. The reason that I'm here testifying, and that I testified quite a bit this past legislative session, is that we are living in scary times. We are literally watching a dictatorship potentially taking hold in our country. So these are times that call for us to pull together and cooperate, and above all, to be selfless and courageous. The lack of funding for RIPTA is not just a failure of the governors, it is also a failure of the legislature that would not find the means for RIPTA to function like the civilized transit system that Rhode Island deserves. The proposal before you today does not make sense for all the reasons that others have better explained. The bottom line is that Rhode Island needs to be more fair. It takes courage to say that, and even more to do it. So these people are not all in the room, but Governor McKee, make it fair. Come up with better solutions than increasing fares on your poorest constituents. Speaker Shikarski and Senate President Watson, make it fair. Reconvene the legislature to pass a supplemental budget to transfer RIDOT funds to RIPTA. While you're at it, have Rhode Islanders who earn the most pay their fair share, tax the 1%. Why would you do these things when it doesn't serve you personally? Because it's the right thing to do, the courageous thing. Director Alvey, please use your influence to support the Rhode Islanders who are working hard to care for their families by allowing DOT funds to transfer to RIPTA if the legislature or the governor asks you. Rhode Island can tend towards fiefdoms, but it doesn't have to be that way all the time. State representatives and senators, make it fair. Have courage. Don't let yourselves be bullied. Realize that by pulling together to support the most disadvantaged among us, that we are all stronger. In conclusion, whatever your income, race, town, your driving situation, a great state like Rhode Island deserves public transit that serves its riders. It deserves fair, honorable leaders who care for everyone, not just the rich and powerful. Board members, I call on you today to postpone your vote. Pass a resolution asking the legislature to reconvene to pass a supplemental budget and As RIPTA's board, bravely, courageously pass this issue back to the legislature and governor. For me, for so many people that I talk to, that I work with, it is so sad that we are living in times where being cruel, greedy, selfish, and controlling has been so normalized, and we're hearing that in the news every day. But here we are, and the solution is courage. Thank you.
Do the board members have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Representative Sanchez.
Good afternoon, everyone. 3K Sanchez, State Rep, House District 9. Thank you for hosting another meeting for the public today. Appreciate the time and transparency for the committee members to testify as well. Rep. Sanchez here speaking. Don't want to speak too long. So I know that there has been a plan of action now set in place. I've been hearing from constituents, from residents that this new RIPTA proposal is still not enough for our communities. There's proposed cuts, there's proposed amendments that aren't sufficient enough, aren't adequate enough for public transportation users. And I want us to go back and see if we can make some adjustments to this proposal. Public transportation affects everyone. I used to think that, just folks who didn't want to drive cars wanted to just use public transportation. But the reality is that a lot of working class Rhode Islanders depend on transportation now, especially now when the high cost of living, rents, mortgages, car insurance, people are not driving cars anymore so that they can afford to move around to their jobs. They can't pay their gas bill, they can't pay their car mortgage, their car loan, they can't pay the car insurance, so people are switching back to buses and public transportation. And if we, as a state, don't do enough to invest the adequate resources and funding into these programs, then a lot of Rhode Islanders are not going to be able to get to their jobs, to their schools, to their doctor's appointments. Our elderly communities are going to be affected harshly as well. Many thousands of Providence students, as you know, I represent a district that has many schools in it. And I see a lot of our kids that depend on RIPTA to get around to school. And if we go forward with this proposal, there will be some cuts to those services that are going to be used for the kids. So I hope that you guys take that into consideration. I know we're in a tough spot. I know we're in a very tough spot, especially under this administration. The federal administration, I know we have our hands tied behind our backs. I know we're losing a lot of funding from the federal government. I know everything is just going to crap right now. I know, trust me, I'm aware. But we have to do our part to minimize the damage control at the state level. And public transportation, RIPTA, is a top priority for our communities. And so I ask you gentlemen to please do the right thing, push this back to the legislature, or speak to Governor McKee, speak to the state administration to see that we can make some changes to it. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Any questions from board members? Thank you.
Next speaker is Daniel Blanchett.
All right. Good afternoon, members of the board. As some of you probably already know by now, my name is Daniel Blanchett. I live in Pawtucket, and I come before you being somewhat mixed. On one hand, I want to thank you in the revised proposal for not doing any of the route eliminations that you had originally planned for Pawtucket overall. But I do have one minor quibble when it comes to, well, not minor quibble, one big quibble that comes to the reduction of service frequencies and cuts and all that. And I will do that with the routes that I am most familiar with because they're closest to me, the 76 and the 35. Now, the current proposal advocates for eliminating Saturday service for the 76 and Sunday service for the 35. Now, I work at a theater in Providence, and some of you know the Veterans Memorial Auditorium, which is not far, which is literally like across the street from the State House. Now, unlike most positions, our theater positions, for those of us that are aisle captains, ushers, and all that, are very irregular. We have to plan ahead of time when our availability is for certain months. So right now we're in a cycle where we're planning availability for October, a couple months from now. And if you look at the schedule on the website for some of the theaters, a good portion of them happen on the weekends. So if the cuts went through for the 76 and the 35, and because a lot of our events happen on weekends, in the evenings, how am I supposed to be able to get to work? It's a simple question. How am I going to get to work when those buses are not there when I need them? So for me, it's easy for me to have the buses there on the weekends, not get cut, and for the 35 and for the 35 in addition, I use that to connect to the 57 to get to church in North Providence. If the cuts go through, how am I going to get to church when services are at noon? So all I'm asking at this point is, don't go through with any reductions in service frequencies for Pawtucket, especially the 76 and 35, but mainly all of them. And talk with the city of Pawtucket, talk with Mayor Grevian's office, talk with the Division of Parks and Recreation, particularly since Slater Park, which the 80 goes by on the weekdays. Right now in the good season from spring to fall, the weekends are when it just
Your 3 minutes is up, so if you could wrap it up, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. All right, so just talk with the city, see what you can do for not only preventing the reductions in service frequencies, but expanding service in Pawtucket, including reversing some of the older service cuts, like with the 76 on Sundays and the 80 on the weekends. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Clarence Cattell.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please don't eliminate bus service Saturday, bus 58. We've been on that 58 issue for a long time, but I've been trying to reach for 14 years. And they said, we'll make it a half hour, but it never happened. And I made a suggestion from 27 from Sannondale stores every hour, like rotating. They never even bothered making an effort. That would benefit a lot of people, but we don't have Sundays and holidays. It runs 11 o'clock at night. Right now, the last bus runs 9 o'clock, and no Sundays and holidays, bus 58. And I think bus 27 would benefit a lot of people, because it goes to Man Ave, you got to stop the shop, you got Orange Square, you go to Market Basket, 58 just doesn't do it. And they used to go straight towards Wendy's, Spring Ave, it doesn't do that no more. It goes right towards Douglas Ave. I just hope they can prove it. I've been trying to do this for 14 years. I hope I don't have to do this for another 10 years. You know, I've been trying, I did 4 bills, they vetoed the bill 4 times. I'm very disappointed with the system, but I'm trying. Thank you.
Thank you. Do the board members have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Ray Gagney.
Good afternoon, I'm Ray Gagney with the Rhode Island Organizing Project. I'd urge you to reject this proposal. The first element is the fare hikes. The last time we tried to raise fares was with the no-fare population. We tried to charge 50 cents. It was absolute chaos. It was absolute chaos. After the second week of the month, people couldn't afford to even go outside. Food pantries, soup kitchens, their populations were going down because people couldn't get there. I have very proud elderly women coming into my office in Providence wailing, absolutely wailing, because they had no way to get anywhere. I had one World War II vet that would call me like every day. When's the governor going to change her mind? When's the governor going to change her mind? I mean, I don't see a schedule for raising the fares, but when they do, it'll be a different population. It might not be so dramatic, but the folks who are going to be hurt the most are the workers that work paycheck to paycheck. There's going to be that little bit more is just going to hurt them. So I'd urge you to reject this. In terms of the fare hikes, I've been doing outreach to bus riders almost every week for like 8 years. And when I always ask them, what can we do to make RIPTA better? Better night and weekend service. More lines like the R line. It's hard for me to visit my cousin in the rural areas. I live in Warwick, it's hard to get around. This proposal just sets us back. We need to go back to governor and have him find the money for this. And again, these service cuts, the folks who are going to be hurt the most are going to be the workers. When I go to Kennedy Plaza, I'm shocked how far people have to commute to get to work. I'm in different exchanges, so 15 minutes might not seem like that much, but if you've got 2 in the middle of the day and you're a shift worker and you're going to a healthcare facility, people could be late for work or their commutes just get longer. So again, thank you for your time. I urge you to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Board members have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Jonathan Kopp.
Hello, all of you. Good afternoon. I, like many others who preceded me, by whose comments I'm really quite humbled, would like to speak out against these service cuts for RIPTA, these reductions in RIPTA. And I think first, let's think about what the Rhode Island Transit Forward 2040 program said in 2020. It said Rhode Island's economic health and quality of life are tied directly to the strength of its transit network. We can recognize that in 2020. It seems we're really questioning it today. And the question I want to ask is why? Ostensibly it's about money, right? We all are familiar with the $10 million figure. And I think, to be at risk of being blunt, I think many people kind of see through that. The Department of Transportation generally has a very healthy budget. I believe the 2025 revised budget was 1.1 billion. And even the Department of Public Safety gets, I think, 220 million. So 10 million, right, dwarfed by these numbers. But what I think the numbers kind of obfuscate is the question of value. What's the value of RIPTA, of public transportation? Who is it for? And the answer is, well, it's for all of us. It's a public investment. Public investment in public transit, it has so many benefits, right? It can reduce congestion, can keep our roads in a better shape, reduce the number of accidents, reduce the number of drunk drivers. And of course, we all recognize the benefits that it has for low-income people, for people who require public transit to get around and to contribute to our economy. So we understand, we can all understand, I think, intuitively that RIPTA has a benefit, right? So to take away a benefit, what are we getting out of that? And what are we getting from taking away a benefit? We're getting harm. I volunteer at a shelter for at-risk youth. None of these young people have cars. They're all trying to get jobs. They're all trying to make it in this society. And frankly, they're talented and they're insightful and they have bright futures. But they're being held back. And what we should really be doing is holding out a hand to them and saying, you know, when we help you, it has a ripple effect. It benefits society at large. When we put people in secure jobs, when we make it so that they can get health care and they have stability in their lives, it benefits society as a whole. So RIPTA's for all of us.
You're right, a 3-minute limit.
Yeah, thank you. And so I just want to close with a quote from Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. Thank you.
The members of the board have any questions?
That was great.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Angela Lima.
Thank you. My name is Angela Lima. I just want to thank the honorable board members today to be able to listen to the community. Thank you for your patience and your willingness to listen. I can speak from a couple of different perspectives. I was one, so I lived in Newport, and at the time, I had gotten a job at one point in downtown Providence working for a law firm. And I wasn't making enough money to be able to afford at the time $400 a month for a parking space. So I looked to the bus services in order to help accommodate. I was one of those commuters that was traveling to get to my job. Unfortunately, I probably lasted about 1 month because I was also a mom caring for a young child, and I had to be there for my child. And unfortunately, the services, it took something like 3 hours just to get from Newport to Providence. And so I lost out on that job. Not because I didn't want to continue working there, but because logistically I had obligations to my family to be there. And again, financially I couldn't afford $400 on parking space just to get to work a month. I also in my capacity as a former elected official for the city of Newport, I have done a ton of work in terms of urban planning, making those decisions. I want to tell you in specific, Route 68 is absolutely critical and important, as well as Route 63. Those are within that area of that bus route. There are over something like, there's there's just about 5,000 people that live there that happen to be our most economically disadvantaged. They're also our housekeepers, our chefs, people who are going into work and that need, and also our professors at Sal Bay Regina University that also utilize those bus systems. It is also a critical line for Department of Health. Unfortunately, where DHS is located in Middletown, it is not exactly access friendly, and so those services provide very fundamental need in order to get people to where they are going. I also, again, thinking about urban planning and design, there are lots of municipalities that are talking about density and doing.
I apologize if they're.
Oh, okay.
Wrap up what you could, please. Thank you.
Well, a lot of planners and are building around density. I just want to say, I know that you all are trying your best, and I know that the buck doesn't stop here with you all, but you have the influence, and if there's even just one of you making this critical decision, you can absolutely slow down the process. You can continue, if you'd like, to further discuss, even if you have just one reservation. I thank you for your time.
Any board members have any questions?
Next speaker is Davina DeLuz.
Hello, members of the board. With these cuts coming to RIPTA, it is something that is not only going to be something that affects people on the roads, in their personal lives, but also within their interpersonal lives. RIPTA as a whole, as it is designed now, is not designed for people in mind. It is not designed for people to commute. It is designed to get people away from where they are. It is designed inefficiently. It is designed over the past 4 years that I have been here in a way that is not the best for the people. It needs to be reassessed, looked at through many different markers, including traffic tracking and making sure that people are kept in mind. These service cuts will not only affect people's work, people's revenue, this will affect people's way of information. People are not able to truly understand the world around them. Getting information from the people, from others, from news stations that they might not be able to access as cable has phased out of the normal household. These are real things that people are facing down as these cuts come into play. Fear, as well as separation from others. It is an inflection point to look at, to say that these cuts cannot come through. It will deteriorate the fabric of Rhode Island as I see it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Board members have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Dawn Sumner. Dawn Sumner. Hector Perez Aponte.
Good afternoon, board members. You folks don't look tired at all. I'm glad to be here and speaking with you folks. My name is Hector Perez Aponte. I'm the Racial Justice Policy Analyst at the Economic Progress Institute. The Economic Progress Institute is deeply concerned about the newly proposed budget framework for RIPTA. The new plan relies on fare increases and proposes some service reductions, which still unfairly shifts the burden of balancing RIPTA's budget on our most vulnerable populations. These communities, particularly low-income households, communities of color, and individuals with disabilities should not be forced to bear higher costs while simultaneously facing fewer options for transportation. In Rhode Island, 68% of single adults and 78% of single parents with 2 children cannot afford their basic needs without assistance, underscoring the need to consider this reality when evaluating fare increases. I also urge the members of the board to consider public transit funding in the broader context of all transportation. As many are already aware, the car tax phase-out was not a one-time event, and in the enacted FY 2026 budget includes $239.5 million to make local governments whole from the loss of revenue from the phase-out. This is an annual and indefinite appropriation, and the entirety of the appropriation subsidizes car owners, so they need not pay the tax. The phase-out and the annual appropriation do not provide the benefit of tax relief to all Rhode Islanders. It provides no relief for the approximately 9% of Rhode Island households without any available vehicles. For rental-occupied households, this rate is 21.5%, according to the United States Census Bureau data. If we are subsidizing car owners with $239.5 million from general revenue funds each year, we should think about doing more to subsidize non-car owners, as well as car owners who would prefer to use public transportation more often than they do. So we strongly urge the RIPTA board, the governor's office, and the General Assembly to prioritize and make the appropriate allocations in this vital service. Thank you.
Board members have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Janice Douglas.
On my property, good afternoon, everyone. Okay. I travel, taking about 10 buses per month, going different places that I have to get to. This is how I travel around. Seniors, I'm a senior citizen, all right? I'll be 69 on Saturday. The problem is taking away the buses on the weekend, okay? Or we'll be prisoners in our homes and not able to get out and to get around. Senior citizen voting population in the state of Rhode Island is at 85%. Okay, we have votes that count, and we need to be listened to. Okay, one of the biggest waste is moving the bus station over to Doran Street. That is just really ridiculous. That's at a cost estimated at $200 to $250 million. Where's that money coming from? And why is it necessary? Why can't $10 million be taken from that, and be used to subsidize what's needed for RIPTA? Okay, so I just want to ask the board to rethink that, and the reasons why that you want to move the bus station. It's really necessary. It's got a great proximity to the train station. It should not be moved, and you're upsetting the lives of many people who are the ones who can't want the politicians and not business owners who might want that real estate there at Kennedy Plaza, but that hub should remain there. And rethink the cost on it, and take the funds that you need from the set aside that is made for the new hub. Thank you very much.
Board members have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Amy Glidden.
Hello. I want to recognize that this might be a little hard to hear for some of you. This is put down as a McGee-Duran proposal, but I don't believe that. I think it's definitely coming from Governor McGee. Governor McGee's proposal to fund RIPTA is a scam. He claims to save public transit while slashing service on over 45 routes. In reality, he's offering RIPTA a loan, not funding. That's money they'll be forced to pay back while struggling to survive. This is an investment, it's sabotage. McGee is pushing his agenda to right-size RIPTA straight into the ground. These massive cuts threaten to plunge the agency into a death spiral. Fewer buses, fewer riders, more cuts, and eventual collapse. These are one of the most extreme cuts in RIPTA's 61-year history. McGee insists they only affect low ridership routes, not peak hours. That's false. Most routes lose frequency during all their hours of service, even the R line. Rural routes are disproportionately impacted by cuts, and many routes are especially impacted on the weekends. Across the board, riders will face reduced frequency, longer waits, and worse service. Over 40,000 daily riders depend on RIPTA to get to work, school, and essential services. These cuts will strand riders, destroy commutes, and damage communities. They undermine Rhode Island's climate goals and economic resilience. McGee wants riders to pay more for worse service. While the base fare hasn't changed in some time, the $70 monthly pass is already one of the priciest in the region. With inflation squeezing families, raising fares while slashing service is indefensible. To make matters worse, McGee is pushing ahead with a costly transit hub no one asked for with zero funding committed. The idea that we need to build a new terminal for a bus system the governor and the General Assembly refused to fully fund is unwise. This proposal offers no long-term solution. It dumps this deficit back onto the agency and its riders, pretending public transit isn't the state's responsibility. That's absurd. Like roads and highways, RIPTA is a public good and should be fully funded. It's $65 million budget is pocket change and $14 million state budget. This proposal is cruel, dishonest, and a direct attack on public transit in Rhode Island. It must be rejected. The board needs to stand with riders and send this plan straight to the trash. And I want to say I've been involved in transit advocacy for over 15 years, and if you pass this today, this is not over. We're going to keep fighting this, and we will fight it all the way to a new governor that supports ridership, to have a board that will support riders. Thank you.
Board members, any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Emily Kribis. Am I saying it correct?
No.
No? Sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Emily Kribis. It's nice to meet y'all. This is my first oral testimony, so you're a part of a core memory for me. I took the 20 to get here. I am a science communicator, science educator, and I moved from Philadelphia to Providence last January. I came here originally for a job at URI, where I was connecting with climate scientists, helping them connect to their audience and make their science more impactful. And I had to take 2 buses to get there, an hour and a half commute. And I love the bus. I'm used to the bus. Actually, in Philadelphia, I was looking, the population is pretty comparable to the population of the entire state of Rhode Island. And in Philly, not only do they have a bus system that is very reliable, they have a train system and a trolley system. So as a grad student, when I was staying late to work in the lab, like studying infectious disease, I never had to worry about walking alone late at night because I knew that the bus was always an option for me. With Rhode Island, I was kind of sold on the dream that this was the ocean state and that I'd have access to the beaches. And that is really a difficult dream to access here, I realize now. Even getting to URI, like the bus that I would take, the 66, it goes every hour, and if I had to stay late, I would have to Uber or rideshare something, and that's $30 to $40 one way. I also have a very strong connection to the indigenous population here. The Narragansett Reservation is impossible to access on RIPTA. So URI, the state school here, the Tamaqua Museum, the Narragansett Reservation, all of the beaches are already difficult for me to access. I really urge y'all to also postpone these votes. We need more funding for RIPTA, not less, please. And I wanted to end, there was like a little story. I was on the 2728, and there's the bus driver stopped at one of the fruit stands that we had on Westminster. He stopped the entire bus and went to buy a mango. And like he stopped all of it and he just brought the mango inside. So there's these little bits of whimsy that we just don't get riding everywhere. So there's all this mundane joy and just being with people in this space, getting to enjoy like how beautiful this entire state is really important. Like I can't put a number to it. And so yeah, I think that I meant to ask in the beginning, no shame if you haven't, but can you raise your hands if y'all have ridden RIPTA? Okay, yeah, like then I encourage y'all to continue doing it and try to find the joy and just being with people.
So if you could wrap it up.
Yeah, so that's it. Thanks for your time.
Board members, have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Ren Fang.
Hi. I have a few things to say. Did RIPTA ever have to do an efficiency study? Like, RIPTA is the most scrutinized agency here, but it also provides like the basis of our urban fabric. But when you're funding RIPTA, when you're giving all these subsidies to car infrastructure, you're helping no one but the people that are privileged and healthy enough to drive cars. You're leaving behind everyone that has to take the bus. And think of all the students who have to commute by bus. I couldn't have gone to high school. I didn't go to high school here, but I couldn't have made it to high school without public transit. And I can't imagine all the students here that rely on RIPTA to do so, being unable to catch the buses and having to miss or having to wait like 30, 40 minutes if they miss their buses. And all the elderly people that won't be able to live their lives if they no longer have access to bus service. You're throwing aside all the people with these cuts. You're throwing aside everyone that can't drive a car. All of the people that you don't see, and everyone that you do subsidize and fund. Because I know you have the money. There is $10 billion somewhere in the state to pad out the funding that RIPTA needs. And with all the car infrastructure funding right now, it's just going to these privileged people, and they're not even doing that well. I mean, people who drive have to wait hours in traffic, and the roads are full of potholes, and I mean, Providence is infamous and terrible to drive in. No one's having a good time. So, yeah, that's what I have.
Board members have any questions? Thank you.
Next speaker is Pat Ford.
I know I won't be talking about the soccer stadiums today. My name is Pat Ford. I'm with an organization called Coalition News. We're an independent media company based here in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm going to draw briefly in my 3 minutes from something called the Rhode Island Commerce Corporation, a component unit of the state of Rhode Island, notes to their financial statements, page 38. And it's something called appropriations from state hotel revenue tax and other income from the state. It's a full page. And it goes on, and by the way, for those of you who are familiar, Commerce RI is essentially an investment bank with the state of Rhode Island. Some would say lording out millions of dollars in corporate welfare. In this year's 2024 statement, the state gave them in excess of $64 million. And there's an entire list of, and again, George Carlin, as I like to say, would have a field day with this. There's something called the Wavemaker Fellowship, which gets $4 million. There's designated grants. First wave closing fund. Now this one's special, $10 million. Now we keep getting back to the central point that $10 million keeps coming up in different places. So what is that? Now, for example, there was an organization called Regentcraft. I've toured their facilities. I've spoken to their president in my normal course of business. They received $1 million under the First Wave Closing Fund Act and $3 million under the Rebuild Rhode Island Tax Credit Act. There's lots of money being thrown around there. Now, if I was a Weisenheimer, as Sister Gilbert used to say to me, I would say that perhaps RIPTA should go to RI Commerce, and maybe they can get some help. Millions of dollars given to out-of-state corporations, people promising the moon to us if they come to Rhode Island. And these are companies that can easily be funded by the private capital markets. They have balance sheets, and I assume that the course of review of Rhode Island Commerce has looked at these balance sheets. What I'm asking is that you take $10 million of this, and instead of investing in these far-flung enterprises that come to our shores, some of them know better than carniacs, and invest $10 million for the people of Rhode Island. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members have any questions? Thank you.
Someday you guys can ask your question. Someday. Grant, you ready?
Give me a little notice, that would be.
Roll
Roll the tape.
I apologize for my beginner's mobility.
Grant, you don't have to apologize for a damn thing.
If you bring that back over here, thank you very much. Be back over there. Don't stand. Good. But if you let me be over there, I would have stayed for the rest of the time. No, I had to sit here. Good afternoon. See, it's the higher chair. That would have been helpful. Good afternoon. Great Bulgarian College Action Rhode Island. I want to thank you all for your public service. I'm going to talk about something that is not usually talked about at RIPTA. However, RIPTA is the Rhode Island Public Transit Authority. So that encompasses a full range of transit. I'm going to say two words, you know what I'm going to talk about. The bridge. A year and a half ago, we were told the bridge needed major work right on top of it. 2 months later, we were told the bridge is dead, we need to replace it. What was the price tag for that bridge that was reported then? $250 million. And what will that gain us? One travel lane in each direction for a fraction of a mile. I said to myself, when we enacted the environmental laws back in the 70s and created EIS, the environmental impact statements, why didn't we make them mandatory if a single project was going to cost more than a certain amount of money? And then a round figure kind of got. My number would have been $100 million. Project's going to cost more than $100 million. Do an EIS. Well, obviously we didn't make it mandatory because we're not doing an EIS. What would an EIS do? It looks at the proposed action. You know what that is. It looks at no action, self-explanatory, and it looks at alternatives. And what my alternative be? Rail. And not just rail between Providence and East Providence, but rail between Providence and East Providence, going down to Riverside, Barrington, Warren, Bristol, across the Portsmouth, Middletown, Newport. I'd like to know what the economic impact would be if we connected downtown Providence and downtown Newport by rail. That's what an EIS would do. And that's what we should do. Price tag for the bridge has migrated. By the end of last year, it was over $300 million. A couple weeks ago, there was an article in the Providence Journal talking about the bridge, and the price that was in that article was over $400 million. If connecting downtown Providence to downtown Newport by rail was, we were going to have to start from scratch, that would be a different story, but that's not the case. There are three major cost components of that, and we got 2 out of 3. What's the major cost component? A tunnel under College Hill. Guess what? We got it. What's the second major cost component? A bridge over the Seekonk River. Guess what? We still have it, thankfully. The only cost component that we don't have is a bridge parallel to the Mount Hope Bridge connecting Bristol to Portsmouth. We do that, we get a cost on that. Once you get to Pacific Island, we got a rail on it. Runs all the way down to Newport. It's used in the summer for the dinner train. After that, other than that, nothing.
Great, that should take a minute, and if you can wrap it up,
30
please.
seconds.
Thank you.
RIPTA should ask the state to do an EIS. And what entity of the state is the most appropriate to look at this? The Rhode Island Commerce Corporation. Does anybody here in this room know anybody on the board of the Rhode Island Commerce Corporation?
I do.
That's what should be asked right away before we spend any more money on the bridge. Get an EIS done. Let's look at the numbers. Then we can make an informed decision. I'm a firm believer, the more information we have, the better decision we make. That's my request. I think this might be transportation transformative moment. As Julius Caesar said, carpe diem. To paraphrase, we need to seize the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Board members have any questions? Thank you.
You gonna roll up?
Oh, roll.
Director, there is no one else signed up to speak.